If you recently passed your CNA exam, yo, big up yourself. Congratulations. You should be incredibly proud of yourself. Standardized tests are not easy, and the fact that you passed just shows your dedication to your craft. So if I'm the first person to tell you congrats, then I will consider it an honor to do so. But school is now over. I need you to put those textbooks down, all right? Go ahead and take that cap and gown, stick it in that drawer that you're never gonna open again, because it is time to get down to business. And by business, I mean the business of securing and starting your first job as a CNA. I've seen so many CNAs make some pretty costly mistakes when they're first starting out, myself included, right? The tips in this video are designed to save you time, save you money, and save you the headache. And the last one is actually my favorite, so I encourage you to stick around to the end so that you can see how to set yourself up for success from day one. Hey team, welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Whitney with CNA Pro, and I like to make videos to help CNAs level up in their career. I am so incredibly excited to be recording this video today because it's almost like stepping back in time. If I could talk to my former self, newbie CNA Whitney, what are the things that I would say to myself now knowing everything that I know? What kind of tips would I give in order to set myself up for success? So let's go ahead and get into tip number one. Now, this first tip is going to be a little bit controversial, so please, 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 please do not come for me in the comment section, okay? If you are just starting out as a CNA, I highly recommend that you get a job either in the hospital or in a nursing home. Okay. I know there are some people who are going to say, are you kidding me right now? Nursing home where they're assigning you 20 patients on a floor. I get it. I hear what you're saying. But the purpose behind this tip is to help you get your skills up. To be a good CNA, you have to know your skills. You have to know how to do it like the back of your hand with your eyes closed, maybe with a hand tied behind your back. And you're not going to learn that in a cushy private duty position, just starting out, not knowing what you don't know. So you've got to get out on the floor and learn the skills, learn the tools, learn the ropes and the routine, and then you can take those skills and move them wherever it is that you would like to go. So for example, in the nursing home, you're definitely going to learn time management, you're going to learn prioritization, you're going to learn the routine that is long-term care. And that routine can help you work in assisted living, memory care, and again, as a private duty or home care aide. When it comes to the hospital, you're going to learn how to think on your feet. You're going to be seeing different treatments and procedures. You're going to be exposed to a wide range of patients in terms of demographics, and you'll be exposed to a lot of different members of the healthcare team. So if you're considering using CNA as a stepping stone to something else, then certainly working in the hospital is a great place to just get that exposure. And so I'm not saying that you have to stay here forever, but I highly recommend 6 months to a year, go ahead and put your time in, try to find the best hospital, nursing home in your area, put your time in, get your skills up, and then those skills are yours and you can take them anywhere that you would like to go. Tip number two, especially if you've already been offered your first position, listen to me and listen to me clearly. I know you've been on Amazon. I know that your shopping cart is full, but here's the thing. Do not check out, do not purchase all of that CNA swag and the tools and all the little trinkets that you think you need until you've started on your first week. Most facilities are going to have an orientation, and it's during that orientation that you're likely to find out what sort of tools you need to do your job. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to be provided with a lot of the tools that you need in order to perform your job on a day-to-day. I remember getting the pink clipboard and like the specialty pens and the fanny pack and all the things, and come to find out my first week on the floor, like none of those things really worked on my unit. It didn't really make sense, and I ended up just sticking them in a closet somewhere and never ended up using them. So start your orientation, ideally start your first week on the floor, and that's when you're going to see, you're going to be going throughout your day working and be thinking, oh, hey, I really wish I had this thing. This particular item would help me do my job better or more efficiently. You want to look around at the CNAs that are on your unit, the ones that are really successful. They're taking great care of their patients. They're getting everything done. They actually have time for a lunch break. What are those people doing? What sort of tools are they using? And then you can try to figure out what your tools are going to be and figure out what it is that you need in order to be successful in your role. But I'm telling you, pump the brakes. It's okay. Load the cart, do a little online shopping, window shopping, but don't check out until you really know what it is that you need. Okay, your bank account is going to thank me, even if the CEO of Amazon may not. Sorry, Jeff. Tip number 3 is honestly one that I feel like I should not even have to include in a video like this talking about a career. But I've been around the block and been doing this long enough to know that unfortunately it must be said. So, tip number 3 is to be a professional. Being a CNA is a profession. Therefore, you should behave like a professional while you're on the job. And I mean professional in the way that you dress, the way that you speak, the way that you act. When it comes to dress, we've all seen that CNA in the wrinkled scrubs, like the ones that look like they pulled them out of the bottom of the hamper after they've been sitting there for 2 weeks. Don't be that person. Make sure that your uniform is clean and pressed, that your hair is neat for whatever your setting is. Be careful with the acrylic nails. Try not to have them too long. So just think about these things to make sure that you look neat and polished when you show up for work. When it comes to the way that you speak, I know this can be a touchy subject. The United States is such a large place, so many different regions with different dialects. But whatever professional sounds like in your area, that is how you should sound when you go to work every day. Let's leave the profanity at home. Let's enunciate our words and make it clear to be understood. A good example of this is I have a friend that, I kid you not, is the CFO of a small hospital. Our families are friends, our daughters hang out together, and it's so funny when I go to his house for, let's say, like a Sunday night football or something. I am just imagining what one of his direct reports would think if they were a fly on the wall of his kitchen and heard him cussing and carrying on during the football game. They would not even believe that this was the same person that puts on a suit and tie and leads the board meeting on Monday morning. Call it code switching if you want. There are some people who feel that it's fake and you shouldn't have to change the way that you speak for work. But in my opinion, that is just the reality of working in corporate America in this day and age. We speak a certain way at home, and I speak a totally different way at work. And I encourage you to do the same. And when it comes to behavior, I think this is pretty basic. Come ready to work and do your best. Give your all for your clients. Stay out of the company drama or the office drama. Show up and shine until it's time to clock out and go home for the day. Tip number 4 is to seek out a mentor. So if your company is worth anything, they should have some sort of orientation process for you. They should assign you a preceptor, which is someone who is sort of going to guide you through the steps as a newbie and show you the ropes. That preceptor may be a great person to consider choosing as a mentor, but let's be honest, sometimes the preceptor isn't necessarily the best person. Maybe your personalities don't gel well together, for example. And so I encourage you to look around. Again, I kind of mentioned this before. See who on the floor is doing a great job and looks like they're not stressed out doing it. That's the person that you want to consider maybe going to lunch with if you can, buying them a coffee, or just when you have some downtime, the 2 minutes of downtime, pick their brain and figure out what their experience has been and what it is that they do in order to set themselves up for success. I'm not saying to be a creeper. Please don't be a creeper and stalk the person. But I think reaching out and complimenting someone on their work ethic and asking them, hey, how do you do what you do, is quite flattering. And I feel that most people will receive that pretty well. And most people would be happy to share it with you. Now, be careful here not to necessarily seek out a work bestie and run the risk of getting into the clique or anything like that. At the end of the day, we're all here to work. And so you should be trying to find the people who are out here doing the best work and emulate what they do so that you can do your best work, again, on the clock, so that you can get off the clock and get out the door. Tip number 5 is to speak up, especially when it comes to a skill or a task that you have been tasked with. If you are not familiar with that particular skill, please don't just go into the client's room and say you're going to wing it. The reality is that no matter how good your CNA program was, there is only so much that you learned during your program and from that textbook. And even during clinicals, let's be real, these facilities are not going to allow you to do as much hands-on as you would do if you were an actual employee. And the reason for this is that you as a CNA student were a huge liability, because at the end of the day, if anything were to happen with that resident, the fault is not on you as a student, it is on the staff, the employees, the management who allowed you to put your hands on that resident. And so for that reason, CNAs and nurses come out of school with very limited hands-on knowledge. I was on the honor roll in my CNA program. I graduated magna cum laude from my nursing program. And both times I can tell you that when I stepped foot my first day on the floor in either profession, I didn't know anything. I had a lot up here, but didn't necessarily know what to do with these. That is just the unfortunate reality of healthcare today. Most of us learn the job on the job. So if you do not know how to use that Hoyer lift, or you do not know how to use the slide board, please don't attempt to do it on your own the first time. Go and grab the nurse, grab the preceptor, grab somebody. If you don't know how to do it, stop, hold up, speak up. Number 6 kind of relates to the last one, and this tip is protect your certification. So if you are a CNA, you completed your CNA program, you passed your state certification exam, and now for a lot of you, I can look you up on your state Board of Nursing website, okay? But that certification that you worked so hard for, you earned it, and it can also be revoked. So I said in a previous video that a lot of CNAs forget the fact that they are working under the license of a registered nurse. And there is a certain plan of care that should be set forth for the residents in your particular facility. They may be tucked away in the patient's chart somewhere. You maybe have never sat down and actually looked at all the tasks that are delegated to you, but it is supposed to be there. So your job as a CNA is to provide the ADL care to the patient, the support to the patient within the guidelines of the plan of care, and also make sure that you are working under your scope. I'm not sure about every state, but I know that the states that I have practiced in have a state nursing scope of practice, like an actual document that you can review that sort of outlines what tasks a nurse is allowed to perform and what tasks a registered nurse is allowed to delegate to either an LPN or LVN or to a CNA. And yet, despite that, I have seen CNAs providing wound care to patients. I've seen CNAs administering medication, not assisting, administering medications to patients. I've seen some crazy stuff over my years of mentoring to CNAs and working in the nursing industry. And I'm here to tell you, don't do it, because if you get caught, you can get reported to the State Board of Nursing, you can have your certification taken away, you can end up on the OIG list of excluded individuals, which means that you are no longer able to work for a Medicare certified agency, which is the majority of healthcare agencies in the United States. You can be sued, you can be fined, the list goes on and on. So at the end of the day, it is in your best interest to know what you can and cannot do as a CNA. Protect your certification because you worked hard for it. Number 7 is a really funny one, and it should not be. And so tip number 7 is to operate under the assumption that you are always being watched. Don't assume that just because you are alone in a room with a patient that there is no one watching you. There's a camera in everyone's pocket. There's a camera in the teddy bear on the shelf. There are cameras everywhere. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised to hear that there are cameras in the bathroom. As a manager who supervises CNAs and other care team members, if I ever receive a complaint from a family about something that one of my team members did or did not do, my default reaction is always to be apologetic to the family and let them know that I am going to go ahead and resolve this issue for them, but that I'm sure that this was some sort of misunderstanding or a miscommunication. I'm always going to go to bat for my team. But if I am then presented with a video of my team member either doing or not doing that thing that they were supposed to, well, then I don't have a leg to stand on. And again, I say this from experience. I remember being the RN case manager for a client who lived in independent living and had hired caregivers that were supposed to be there around the clock. I remember the caregiver always telling us that we couldn't show up until a certain time because the client liked to sleep in. Meanwhile, if we attempted to go early, we'd knock on the door, call the caregiver, no answer. And that's because she was riding around town doing her errands and whatever it is that she wanted to do from about 7 to noon, despite the fact that the family was paying for her to be there at 7 a.m. And that meant that they were leaving this bedbound patient at home alone for hours at a time, at least until the family installed a camera and saw exactly what that particular CNA was not doing. that they should have been. And so you tell me what you think happened once the family found out that all of this was going on. So don't be that CNA. Don't think that because the resident has dementia and they can't speak for themselves, that you can just do whatever it is that you want. At the end of the day, you should not do anything with a patient or client that you wouldn't do with your mom present, their daughter present, your pastor present. If Jesus Christ himself was standing in that room, how is it that you would treat that resident? That's how you should be treating them every day. Tip number 8 is take care of yourself. You are a caregiver. You provide care to those who need it, but you cannot provide care and assistance to those in need if you do not care for yourself. And by this, I mean a few different things. Make sure that you are using proper body mechanics. Make sure that you are using proper techniques when you are transferring these residents. You should not be lifting a single soul. If the patient cannot assist you in a transfer, that patient is a Hoyer lift, or at the very least, a 2-person transfer. If the resident requires a 2-person transfer, you wait for that second person. Consider using a back brace, maybe consider getting compression stockings, plan vacations, take your time off, drink water, eat snacks. When you clock out at the end of your shift, spend time with your friends and family, cultivate hobbies and other interests outside of work. Please just work on you and take care of yourself, mind, body, and spirit, because you cannot be a caregiver if you do not care for yourself, at least not for the long haul. Tip number 9, I really, really love. And this is a tip that I feel like some of you need to hear today, so listen up. Don't be afraid to move on. There was research done by Zippia in 2023 that says that most people receive a salary increase when switching jobs, and those who stay in the same place for over 2 years actually tend to make less money. The average salary increase when changing jobs is 14.8% compared to wage growth. We all know that in a lot of locations around the country, the annual pay increase is actually only between 2 and 4%. Compare that to the average rate of inflation that we've experienced since 2023, which has been about 4.1%. You are actually losing money every year that you decide to stay at a company beyond the first year. Now, that's not to say that you should get all up in arms and say that some random girl on YouTube told you that you need to switch jobs every 1 to 2 years. There are other things that you should 100% consider when evaluating your work situation. Things like your benefits, company culture, whether or not you enjoy the facility that you work in, if you enjoy the people that you work with, if there are opportunities for growth and advancement. All of those things should be considered when taking a... Okay, me and this microphone are gonna fight. Battery died. So you should absolutely take all of those things into consideration when deciding when it's time to make a career move. And if the answer to that question is, nah, I think I'm good where I am, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if you feel like you are overworked, underpaid, as so many CNAs do, if you're dealing with poor company culture and all of that mess, do not be afraid to look around. Now, it's true that you don't want to job hop too much. So I'll be honest, as a manager who regularly reviews CNA resumes, I do see it as a bit of a red flag if someone is changing jobs every 6 months to a year. That makes me question how long they're going to be working with my company before they decide to move on. But I absolutely do not see switching jobs every 2 to 4 years as any sort of cause for concern. But whatever you decide to do, as a general rule, let's all agree that your first CNA job should probably not be your last CNA job. When the time comes, don't be afraid to move on. And as promised, tip number 10 is my absolute favorite, and that is to keep on striving. I love this quote from Doug Firebaugh: every day do something that'll inch you closer to a better tomorrow. Regardless of what your ultimate goal is for your CNA, keep growing and keep moving forward. If becoming a CNA is a stepping stone on your journey to another healthcare career like nursing or being a physician assistant or a doctor, keep stepping and don't stop until you reach that goal. But not every CNA is looking to transition to another career. If you plan on remaining a certified nursing assistant, tell those people to put some respect on your name. But that doesn't mean that you cannot keep striving for better too. Get that next certification, become the lead CNA in your facility, switch jobs, increase your income. Just don't stay stagnant. Life is about change and growth, and in my opinion, your career should be too. Whew. All right, that's it. We have finally reached the end. So, what do you think? Are there any tips that I left off? If you are an experienced CNA, what sort of advice would you have for your former self or for a newbie CNA starting out today? Drop them down in the comment section below. Let's get some conversation going. I think it's so important and so valuable. As always, I appreciate you for spending a bit of your time with me. And until the next video, I hope that you wait less, do more, and come up with a plan to go out and get yours. Ciao.